Hello Tube Dwellers and welcome. I'm the Arcadean and this is Mabinogi Duel. We're using a much simpler PvP deck today, but it's still quite powerful, so let's give it a try. As always, if you want to copy this deck directly into your game, just copy down the number or the series of letters and digits in the top right into your My Card section. Alright, let's give this a whirl. As always, we're going to be doing the 1v1 arena rather than the PvP. PvP arena simply takes too long, and once you get up into the high levels, you really should be running multiple decks and counter picking anyway. No, thank you, Scamcat. 1 card for 5? I don't think so. Alright, 1v1 duel mode. Let's see how quickly we can get a game. So, because we're running a much more basic deck than normal, we can't be quite as aggressive as we usually are. We've got to pay much more attention to resource management and card usage and counters and all that sort of thing. It's still a very powerful deck. You can definitely get it up into platinum and even up into the top 10. But once you get out of gold, if you're running PvP Arena, definitely have at least one other deck in your sort of list, just so that you can counterpick if you go up against somebody that's running something extremely unpleasant, like the triple trio in my last video. Yeah. Because certain decks are going to give you problems, and because this is a basic deck, we don't really have. Here we go. We don't really have a lot of answers. It's versatile, but it's a lot easier to deal with. So, let's see. Remiel, the neutral hero, interesting. Gold, light, and dark. All right. Let's see what this is like. We'll play the elephant right off. Surprise attack. Okay, now that sounds bad, but actually it works out in our favor. He spent 2 resources. I'll just drop skeleton there, it doesn't really matter. He spent 2 resources to remove a 1 resource creature, putting us at a resource advantage. Oh, we freed. Okay. Okay. This could be interesting then. What do we want to do here? Alright, so Ifrit will deal 1 to 4, then 10 to both battlefields. We don't really want to have to deal with that if we can possibly avoid it. So, we will... How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Yeah, okay, we're just going to use Heavy Offering. There we go. Boom! Alright, so it kills our skeleton. But Ifrit's an expensive creature, and we just removed it for 1 cost. And obviously the Calamus comes out, but it's about to disappear, because there's no other creature to remove. Excellent. And we level up. So you can see that we are at a big resource advantage now. Not to mention HP advantage, which is always helpful. Okay, he's charging up. Almost certainly charging up towards an Orperia, and here is where I wish that we were running the L hero. That would shut that down very nicely. Okay, I would like to work towards Xena, actually. So, what we're going to do is we're going to drop the Vampire, and we're going to play Xena. This means that we've got a very good chance of stopping this Orperia Ifrit combo that I'm pretty sure is coming out. So he'll drop the Dark Orperia -1. Well, he can't now because he's got to use the Drag to Hell to stop the Xena, but that's a good thing. It delays his Orperia by a lot. So we'll play Albi to put on some pressure, and we'll keep the rest. If he brings out a Ifrit, I want to Betrayal it right off the bat so that we can do some damage and then get a hit off. Okay, that's also fine. He's using a lot of resources to counter us. Unfortunately, we're also using quite a few resources, which isn't ideal, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, we'll use the Barbarian and then we'll revive from the grave just to give ourselves a full hand back. There goes the Angel Orperia. Not a -1. That's actually good. and Ifrit Firora. And what did she do at level 3? 15. So yes, that would kill our barbarian. So what we want to do is we want to betrayal first, because that way it's cheaper, and then we level up. Good. That means we get our barbarian's attack off, and Ifrit's going to use her ability to damage the Orperia and anything else that he happens to summon, and then Ifrit will get a shot off as well. Okay, levels up to 3. Alright, that's not too bad. That damages Orperia, ensuring that when Ifrit dies, so will Orperia. Now the question becomes, do we want to save up more resources and take this 18 damage now, or do we want to play a creature? We don't want to play Xena, she's way out of our range at the moment. We could play Vampire, and I am tempted to do that, but maybe not. I think what we will do is we'll drop the skeleton, just to put a little bit of extra pressure on. That's fine, it turns it into a goblin, which is no real change. Drops our damage down by 1, I think. And the HP wasn't going to survive Ifrit's death ability anyway. Right, so there's Ifrit. He's basically got to... well, he's got to kill the barbarian, is what he's got to do. Oh, 2 okay, so it's got its maximum fire roll. It's unfortunate, but... Okay, interesting. Interesting. Using the Hellhound to kill the barbarian. That's a decent idea, except that he knows that we have Betrayal. So all we have to do is cast Betrayal on the Ifrit. Ifrit becomes ours. We charge up, and we win. Yes, now if he'd cast the ritual on the Ifrit, that could have been intriguing. Because then we wouldn't really have had anybody to betray over to our side. Except the Hellhound, but then... anyway. So you can see against the Orperia, Nevia, Ifrit combo, which is a good combo. It's not a bad deck by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually very, very powerful. But a basic budget deck managed to shut it down. Alright. A good start, I feel, to the budget deck. Let's see if we can keep it up for the second fight. Fingers crossed. Wow, okay, found an opponent immediately. Banoba. Alright, this could be problematic. Banoba is usually found... just picked that. Banoba is usually found running gimmick decks. So, this may very well turn out to be an example of a deck that you do not want to run this budget deck against. But let's see. Alright, she's just charging up. We'll play our elephant. And let's see, she could answer that with a heavy offering if she has one, or a surprise attack. Again, like with the last person that we went up against, that's actually a good thing for us. We'll drop... we could drop the skeleton. I think actually we will. The thing is with Banoba, she's gonna, if she uses something like a holy missile to take care of the skeleton, then that, which she does. It's a 1/1 resource trait. Puts her into a good position for leveling up next turn. But every time a creature dies, both heroes lose hit points, and she's actually behind us in terms of hit points at the moment. So she's hurting herself by killing my creatures. All right, and she's used both her... Oh, Heineken. She's used both her surprise attack and holy missile, which means that we can play Witch Xena, which in the worst case is, well, we could play Witch Xena, which in the worst case would lure out a Drag to Hell. But I think what we'll do is we'll play just slightly less aggressively. We'll drain the hit points off with the vampire, putting that into a solid position, and we will wait. I'm not entirely sure what she's building up towards. Command hunting. Okay, that makes sense. And dropping a skeleton. Alright, so nothing really particularly urgent there. We'll drop our Albi. And yeah, what do we got? 5, 6, 7. We can kill the skeleton next turn and let our Albi go right through. And we'll drop the golden bomb squad because I don't really want to take the 5 HP damage. Closure missile team, okay. That's fine. One of the old CLO cards, but doesn't in fact do any damage to us. We're taking some heat though, which is unfortunate. So what we're going to do is we're going to flame emission this line here. Get some of that damage off us. There we go. And then we got not enough for the heavy offering. We will hunt. The thing is, we are at a major health disadvantage at this point. So we need to make up that difference as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, she's also a level ahead of us. That's okay. Yep, that's fine. Alright, no problem there. We're going to play Witch Xena and then level up. Because we can't be guaranteed that if we leveled up we would have gotten dark resources to allow us to cast Witch Xena's thing. Alright, we're in a strong position now. With the bomb squad and the Albi both being able to individually deal fatal damage, we're in a very strong position. Let's see if she can answer it. Grave Robber of Jerna. Okay. He's an interesting card, certainly. And Battle Force Nata. Okay. Okay. Alright, so Albi's ability weakens everybody, which is fantastic. And we hypnotize that creature. Good. Good, good, good. Now then. Flame emission is ready to go, so we're going to discard Betrayal and Barbarian. And we will use Flame emission to clear off Nata and the Grave Robber, allowing us to land the finishing blow. And there we go. Fantastic. Good deck on her part. Skeleton Warrior, I think. No, Skeleton Knight. A good card. It fell out of favor for a while, but it's creeping back occasionally. And 500 gold. Yay. Excellent. Oh, replace 1,500. Nice. Okay, very good. All right, so we went up against a gimmick deck and we went up against a normal strong deck and came out victorious in both. Hooray for us. Let's take a look at the cards then, go into them in a bit more detail and look at possible substitutes. So first of all, we have Elephant and we have Skeleton. These are very strong, low-cost creature cards. Generally, if you're running Nature or Dark, there's not generally any reason not to have these cards. Elephant's fantastic, and Elf, they have exactly the same stats, is fantastic simply because it resists all one-cost removal spells. So if you want to remove the Elephant or the Elf, you're going to need to use a 2-cost removal spell or another creature. Either way, it's a bit awkward. The only thing that the Elephant and the Elf don't resist is Heavy Offering, which is our third card here. This has become quite a staple of the meta. just to remove the elves and the elephants for an even resource cost. It can also be quite useful if you're paying attention to how much hit points and how many empty slots there are. It can be useful to remove other creatures. But usually you'd use it on the first turn to remove the elf. Goblin Bomb Squad. I mean, if you run PvG, you'll know this guy. He's fantastic defense. Really, really useful. Cocoon of Evolution, perfect for shutting down Doom Machines, Beastkin Jurgen, Witch Xena, Scathach, all these cards that can cause problems. Hunt, 2-cost removal spell, of course, you've got to run the removal spells. Vampire, fantastic tank. You throw him down in front of a creature with a large amount of hit points, and the vampire will take them all. So the vampire can be used to soften up a bigger creature in order to remove it with a removal spell or an ability. Or it can simply be used to throw down in front of the big creature and then just tank the hits for a little while. Barbarian, always a useful card to have in your PvG decks and pretty useful in PvP as well. If the enemy don't kill it outright, then it starts to ramp up its attack value, turning it into a serious threat. Betrayal, fantastic gold card, just used for grabbing people, making them deal damage on your behalf. You saw how helpful that was against the Ifrit. Flame Emission, again, area of effect removal spell. You should always have at least one area of effect removal spell, ideally. Albi Stone Golem, good in PvG, not too bad in PvP. An excellent tank, although at level 3 you do have to be aware that he will be removed by surprise attack. Still, very powerful, and his ability can be extremely useful for softening up the opposing field. It's not a good idea to bring out Albi and Xena at the same time, because Albi's ability will kill all of the hypnotized creatures on the battlefield, making Xena vulnerable. However, they can be used sort of to make up for each other's weaknesses, basically. The Albi being a fantastic tank with area of effect damage, and Witch Xena not being a particularly powerful offensive presence, but being able to completely shut down irritating cards like Nerva, Scathach, and all the others that I mentioned for Cocoon of Evolution. In terms of substitutions, Elephant or Elf, both of those are fine. Skeleton, keep a hold of that. Heavy Offering you could replace if you find that you're not really too concerned about one-turn elves. You could switch that out for a Drag to Hell, an Arrow of Revenge, anything like that would work out fine. Goblin Bomb Squad, I mean, you can keep him, you can remove him. It's good to have a low-cost gold card in your hand. You could drop Goblin Bomb Squad for Leopard if you wanted to. Leopard has more or less the same functionality as the elephant. It's impossible to remove the leopard with anything of an equal resource value, so that's not bad. Cocoon of Evolution, I definitely keep a hold of that. If you were going to switch it out, it would have to be for something like Capture, but in that case you'd need to switch the Albi out for something lower cost. Hunt, keep it. There's no reason to get rid of that. Vampire, I'd say keep it. It's a very useful tank, but if you're having difficulty outputting a lot of AoE damage, you could replace that with a Hellhound. Barbarian, I'd keep that. Dragon Knight would also be good. You can do tricky things with Goldhand Alchemist if you wanted to, but for purposes of keeping things simple, just keep the Barbarian in there. Betrayal, keep a hold of Betrayal. You really do want to have a way of counteracting large creatures. Flame Emission, keep a hold of that. You could theoretically replace it with Forest Fire, but I wouldn't. Albi Stone Golem, you could switch that out for a Capture, but in that case, again, as with the Cocoon of Evolution, you'd need to bring in a different creature card. Your damage is mostly going to come from getting your creatures out pretty early on and hammering down the HP value of your opponents before they can properly react. And ideally, you do want a tank. Capture can serve that purpose if you capture a heavy creature, but I find Albi to be quite useful. Witch Xena, I have around to counteract big threats like Nerva and so on and so forth. If you know that your opponent's going to be running a Nerva and you get Witch Xena out first, chances are very good that Xena is just going to immediately counteract Nerva, which will utterly destroy your opponent's tactics. So fantastically useful. If you don't have Xena, or you just don't like her, you don't want to run her, or you want more offensive presence, you could switch Xena out for the Magician Masked Field. He's also an extremely powerful presence, and well worth looking at if you haven't tried him already. I think that's everything. So once again, if you want to copy down the deck, there's the code. Good luck with it. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, don't take a second, and I really appreciate it. And until next time, have fun and good luck.